G'day guys, my name is Wildkard. Welcome back to my channel. Thank you for being here. If you haven't done so already, hit that subscribe button. Helps out the channel a lot. It's Tuesday. It's news day. Let's take a look at what's been happening in the world of rugby. First up, Super Rugby Round 9. Let's look at some of the results. This is the final round before the Trans-Tasman portion of the rugby competition gets underway this weekend. Moana Pacifica started off the week against the Hurricanes on the Tuesday night. This has been a really tough season for the Moana Pacifica team. It's their inaugural season, and because of some of the games being cancelled, I guess postponed in the first few weeks due to COVID, they are playing back-to-back Tuesday games, multiple weeks in a row, and it's starting to get to them. It's from the looks of it. So Moana Pacifica went down to Hurricanes pretty convincingly, 53 points to 12. On Tuesday, kicked off the round 9 of Super Rugby, and then on Friday evening, Crusaders host the Blues. Big upset. First time since 2004 since the Blues beat the Crusaders in Orange Theory Stadium at Christchurch. This was a massive win for the Blues. King Bowden guided the ship quite well, closed out the game, finished the stopped the Crusaders from making that famous comeback to win the game, and also in the same swoop that Bowden killed the chokers, I guess suspicions once again for the Blues to finishing a quite nice game. Really good performance by I guess both teams. Very competitive match. Crusaders did get a red card early in the game due to Scott Barrett, but overall the team was just a little bit short from the Blues game management. And then we saw the Reds playing the Rebels. Huge improvement by the Rebels. This was pretty close from beating the Reds, to be quite frank. The Reds looked like they fell asleep a little bit in the second half, allowing the Rebels to come back, and then they kind of went, oh, well, we're in a rugby game. Let's get ourselves. Let's start playing again, and then kicked themselves back ahead in a couple of flurry of tries. But eventually, this I thought was a really good performance by the Rebels. The first round the two teams played was literally the worst game of rugby I've ever seen. It was in the rain, and the Rebels literally looked like they were kids playing in the mud. They dropped the ball. There was, I think it was 18 scrums in the second half just due to drop balls. Literally, it was a scrum every minute. It was ridiculous amount of drop balls. It was not even a professional game that I watched in the first round these two teams played. But this was a much better team. Huge improvement by the Rebels. And Matt Tuamura making that statement for that Wallabies jersey. He did guide the game quite well for the Rebels for a few weeks now. And the huge part of the improvement is largely to do with Tuamura's performance. Chiefs played Moana Pacifica on Saturday afternoon. This was the second game Moana Pacifica to play this week. And again, you can see the fatigue starting to kick in. Chiefs convincingly beat Moana Pacifica 6 tries to 2, 45 points to 12. Really unfortunate the way that the schedule's turning out for the Pacifica team. And then the another controversial game late in the afternoon for the New Zealand side. Hurricanes versus Highlanders, Forsyth Bar Stadium, 1 point. So this was a game where the Hurricanes came out in a flurry, scoring, I think it was 2 tries and a bit in the first less than 15 minutes. And it was looking like it's going to be a blowout. The bus, Julian Savia, looked good again. He looked in shape. There's some talks of him to be potentially considered for the All Blacks once again. And that aside, the Highlanders really managed the game. Slowly but surely claw themselves back into the game. They're really drawn the Hurricanes into a kicking game. Eventually, winning the kicking game and being able to pull themselves back and actually put themselves ahead for a brief moment before the Hurricanes kicked themselves into another try. So this was kind of a game where the Hurricanes looked like they got too far ahead too quickly, and then they just got a bit too confident. And then Highlanders slowly but surely chipped their way back into the game. Final moment, there was a controversial decision. And we're going to have a look at the news article. The Nugget, what's his name? Aaron Smith had quite a bit of words to say about the result of this game. The referee's decision towards the end was not a lot of people talking about. I thought it was a try in the end, but we'll have a look at the article in a minute. The Western Force host the Waratahs at home. The Force once again had a bit of a tough run going into the game. They had 5 players that was replaced just before the game kickoff due to COVID. And so Waratahs came out start really quickly, and the Western Force kind of like got themselves back in the game. But yeah, the play style from the Western Force was probably a little bit too one-dimensional, too predictable. They had about 20 minutes in the first half, just pounding the Waratahs defensive line, and even with the advantage being played, they did not opt for any variation for them in attack play. They just kept on with the same attack patterns again and again and again and again. There was no chip kick, no kicking involved. Nothing crazy was involved. Just really predictable, attack for 20 minutes flat, and was not able to pull away with sufficient pressure to go over a try line. So I thought, maybe the Western Force could have looked at that strategy a little bit, quite contrary to the New Zealand game we saw earlier. If you look at match stats, there's hardly any kicking in this game. 9 kicks and 15 for the Waratahs. Yeah. So obviously, in the end of the day, the referee, like I was mentioning, came into question over the weekend. Obviously the red card by Scott Barrett, saw him, he's going to be missing out 3 weeks. The Highlanders actually had a red card as well by one of their players, and basically the Highlanders actually had 2 players being suspended. The Amora was red carded during the match, so he's going to be Amora from the Hurricanes was red carded during the match, but wait, no. Is it? Wait, I thought Amora. Anyway, so Dixon was red carded, but from the Hurricanes, Dixon from the Hurricanes was red carded for during the match, but Amora was not cited from the Hurricanes side. Pretty sure Amora was Hurricanes. So later on in review, Amora was cited, and he gets a 3-match ban as well. So 3 out of the 3 players from the New Zealand side over the weekend gets banned for dangerous play. And also, so obviously the red card is starting to become a big issue in rugby these days. Heineken Cup on the weekend, 5 red cards out of 8 matches. So the total amount of red cards that was given out this weekend in professional club rugby, 7, plus 1 that was kind of unsighted, so 8. Technically, there was 8 red cards issued out in one weekend. Out of what? Out of 5 plus 8, 13 matches. 8 red cards in 13 matches. So obviously there's a lot of talk about this becoming a big issue in rugby. The 20-minute red cards on trial in the Southern Hemisphere in Super Rugby. So even with the red card, like I said, the Highlanders was able to stage a comeback, almost clutching that win over the Hurricanes because of the 20-minute red card. But the 20-minute red card is only applied in Super Rugby and not used rest of the world. And World Rugby is looking at expanding that into the rest of the world, not as a permanent fixture, but as a trial. They wanted to have more data to kind of like decide whether or not they wanted to make a permanent change to the 20-minute red card rule. And obviously, this has stirred up a lot of opinion around the world. So a lot of boomers, and when I say boomers, I truly mean these guys are retired, out of the, like literally should just stop talking, that kind of age. But you know, these people used to be somebody and they have an opinion now that they no longer actually involved in the game. So obviously, first up, Sir McGeehan, the former the Scottish coach, the Scotsman, former Lions tour coach, British and Irish Lions coach, famous British and Irish Lions coach, kind of came out and made his opinion. He doesn't support the 20-minute red card because he thinks that there should be 2 categories of red card infringements. He thinks that if the red card occurred as an accident, then it should not be a red card, straight up. But if the red card happened because of a actual dangerous play or actual foul play, then they should be off for the entire game. So the problem is, Sir McGeehan, the interpretation of what is accident is very hard to determine on the field. Sometimes, not all the time is clearly definable what's an accidental, shoulder to the head, for example, right? A lot of times, there could be a lot of things happen that could be considered accident. Because if you think about it, no player actually go onto the field, try to put their shoulder onto someone's head, like intentionally. Even if they are, it's really hard to prove that intention. So pretty much every time that happens, it's an accident, to be really frank. I don't think players are that malicious nowadays to go out there and try to end someone's career with a shoulder charge to the head. So it's really hard to determine that for the referees, so it's not as easy as you think. And also, so just because the written law of what constitutes a red card has been the same, the interpretation of the law has changed since 2009. And as a result, the law has changed. You change the interpretation of the written law, the law has changed. So that's why there's so many more red cards than before, because the way the law is interpreted very strictly and very literally as written per words on the law. Any contact neck above is red card. That's basically kind of like what the law says. So the interpretation of the law is a change to the law. And in that case, there is a case for a change to the red card system, because technically, Sir McGeehan, the red cards that is given out today is not the same as it was prior to 2019, and it's not the same prior to the time that you were coaching in the 90s. So technically, it's actually completely different laws that is being implemented on the field today. So it's not exactly the same as what you think. So that is also a call for the reason for 20-minute red card, because the law has technically changed due to the difference in interpretation that's been implemented since 2019. So that's one thing. Another thing, obviously, the Nigel Owens, probably the best referee in the world, came out and made his opinion. He's also not in support of a 20-minute red card, but I don't agree for his reasoning. His reasoning is mainly because the reason for a red card is for a change in player behavior, right? It's like, slapping a kid when they do something wrong to stop so you teaches the kid to stop doing something wrong. It's that same mentality. Nigel Owens thinks that reducing the punishment from full match ban to 20 minutes decentivizes a player's behavior being changed. Now, I don't think that's true, because that's kind of like what the World Rugby is trying to look into with the more stats, because that's not really, there's no statistic evidence to back that. In fact, we can actually see the level of players, play are much more careful now because of it. And there's clearly like a shift in the way that the players, the teams are managing this as well. So there's definitely at least a managerial change in trying to implement player behavior. It's definitely making a difference, giving out more red cards nowadays. But I just don't think Nigel Owens' statement is true, because we actually don't have the stats to prove that it's like reducing the 20 minutes changes players' behavior. In fact, we can clearly see there's a behavioral change since the stricter red card laws has been implemented. So that's the thing. The World Rugby needs to have more. We saw Skulkberger, right, gouging someone's eyes in the Lions tour, only getting a yellow. Okay, you can tell the law has changed a lot. So I just don't think Nigel Owens' statement has. I wouldn't say it's untrue. I just don't think there's enough data to support that statement. So yeah, there's a kind of interpretation for the red cards. And obviously we were talking about Highlander just then. Yeah, so Highlander's obviously not happy. Nugget came out, and Nuggy, is that what they call him? Nuggy? Aaron Smith came out and basically said that the referee is inconsistent. So the Adi Savia the week before also came out when they lost to the Crusaders. They also thought the referee was inconsistent. So yeah, that's not exactly a red card issue. That's about a consistent issue. Something that I do think that the New Zealand referees are told to rush through their decisions a little bit by New Zealand Rugby to keep the game flowing. Whilst I think it's important to keep the game flowing, the right decisions needs to be made ultimately. So yeah, there's a lot of referee discussions out of the picture. So obviously following the week's performance, some standout performance from the New Zealand side. I thought Julian Savia looked really good. He was running through people like he was John Lomu. He was running through people like I've never seen him run through people before. In fact, it was quite impressive. And Julian Savia, only 31 years old ahead of this. I thought he was way old. I think it was 34, 35 or something. But 31, that's like prime. He's still in his prime. Bowden Barrett is 30. I mean, 31 is not in any stretch of form out of his prime. A lot of people were talking like, you know, he's done, he's like you know, too old. But 31, that's prime age, my friend. And there could be a good reason for him to, yeah, look at that spectacular jumping through try. There could be a very exciting international rugby season coming up if we can see Julian Savia in that black jersey again. That's certainly going to make me excited to see him. Now, let's move on to Australian rugby. So, obviously, the contract at the moment with Dave Rennie comes up in 2023, which is next year. And there's talks of potentially keeping him to 2027 if he goes deep in you get to keep your job if you go deep in the Rugby World Cup. You don't even have to win it. You just have to make into like, you know, it's not even like specify how deep, right? Is it semi-final? Is it grand final? How deep is deep? Is quarterfinal considered deep, going in deep? I don't know. But apparently if he takes the team deep, he will be up for 2027 to take the team for another 4 years, right? But whilst this was, you know, not confirmed, there's a lot of talk about who could be the next coach. There's some talk about Brad Thorne to be thrown a name out as a potential coach. And Brad Thorne has said he wants to take the job. And I think his performance for the Reds has really showed a lot of promise to be a good Wallabies coach. The way he brings that All Blacks, you know, mentality into the Reds, that you know, hard work ethic is something that the Wallabies desperately needs. There's also some talks potentially getting Eddie Jones back, but not as a head coach, as a to build enthusiasm. So I don't think Eddie Jones wants to be a cheerleader, my friends. Who is it that said it? Kernsey, I think he was. Yeah, Phil Kearns. I don't think Eddie Jones wants to be a cheerleader. I think Eddie Jones would rather coach Argentina or any other team in the world than being a cheerleader under Rugby Australia, right? And there's a reason. There's a reason why. So apparently, there was some controversy amongst these talks about getting a new Wallabies head coach, potentially, right? So, someone apparently, right, an unnamed Rugby Australia source in a Channel 9 network report apparently told the Channel 9, which is a television Channel 9 in Australia, that Brad Thorne is not a team player and would not be considered for the Wallabies role, according to someone from inside Rugby Australia. Okay, first up, the issue here is not the fact that someone in rugby, someone thinks that Brad Thorne is not fitted for the role, okay? The biggest issue here is someone in Rugby Australia is spreading rumors, is literally spreading gossip behind the back of the organization. Someone deep in the circle of like the executives is spreading backroom, like boardroom rumors out into public to the news media. That is a way bigger issue than someone's opinion about Brad Thorne not fitted for the Wallabies coach, because let's face it, we all have our opinions. But that is a huge managerial failure for Rugby Australia. I cannot believe when I read this, like how poorly managed Rugby Australia is to have someone in like an executive position, or have access to someone in executive position to have like this sort of information, to be like able to hear this sort of information, and to be allowed to go and talk to news channels about this, spreading like this sort of rumors, is absolutely the biggest, one of the biggest. This is why Rugby Australia is failing. The management just like is right there. The management is failing hard. I could not believe this, to be honest. Anyway, this has gone long enough. So some quick words about the remainder of the thing. Izzy Folau looking to come back. It's confirmed basically by the coach himself, by what's his name? Who was it? Kefu, Todai Kefu, basically confirmed that Israel is on board and is looking forward to play against Australia in the Rugby World Cup, and potentially against Australia in a test match in Brisbane next year. So yeah, this is pretty big to see Izzy Folau coming back. I wonder if he's going to get cheered, if he's going to get booed. I don't know. We shall see. Pablo Matera is currently playing for the Crusaders. There was some talks of him going back to France to play for Stade de France, but that's confirmed. He will not be the case due to his commitment to Argentina. He will have too much time away basically from the club, and they just don't see that fit. Obviously, let's not even talk about this. Some people talk, Sir John Cohen saying Roger Tuivasa-Sheck should be fast-tracked into the All Blacks team. Sure. Go ahead. And then there's some talks about the next All Blacks coach. Once again, Sir John Cohen thinks that Leo McDonald could be the next All Blacks coach. McDonald has currently on one good season. I guess last season was okay with the Blues, and that's largely to do with Beauden Barrett returning to the Blues. And Razor, the Crusaders coach, Robertson, he is been consistently good with the Crusaders. I think he makes a much better case for the All Blacks head coach. If they give the head coach position to McDonald over Razor, I think this could be a riot in New Zealand, to be really frank. Yeah. And then we have some URCs currently looking at potentially starting a B division, the United Rugby Championship. Basically, they're looking at getting the Cheetahs into a professional league, because Cheetahs been performing pretty well in the former Super Rugby club, and also maybe add the Australian teams all into it. And yeah, so the B division I think would be good to have more depth for all the teams. Maybe like a relegation as well would be really, really good for the URC, and just have, maybe all the Australian teams in it would really benefit the overall development for all the teams in that competition. Sales Shark talks about Lou Diega. So basically Lou Diega and Faf de Klerk are both leaving Sales Shark, and there were some talks of Diega going to Jake White at the Bulls, but the most likely situation has been confirmed last week that he's going to Japan with Faf. Unconfirmed location, but going to Japan. Now, Springboks is currently looking at a different number 10 due to the unavailabilities with Hundred Polo and Elton Yanshis during the test series against Wales. I think this was at home. I think this is just like I think the players are not going to be available. So basically, they're looking at a different fly half for this test series, and then basically looking at they basically considering Mornay Stein, but Mornay has retired for international rugby, so he won't be playing. So they're looking at Francois Stein and Damien Valemsa, who I think he played one fly half. I think he plays fly half. No, I think he plays fly half for the Bulls or something, which is a possibility. And Cheslin Kobe played fly half for Toulouse, I think last year before he was injured, or maybe the year before now. It's been a while. But yeah, so there's a few options, but Kobe at fly half is a interesting prospect for the Springboks. And then obviously we have been talking about, all these players being available, former Wallabies players like and All Blacks players playing for Tonga. There's potentially a Wallabies player, former Wallabies player, open to play for the All Blacks. So we have Jermaine Ainsley, who played 3 tests for the Wallabies in 2018. He will be available to play for New Zealand because he hasn't been playing for Wallabies for over 4 years now, and he's a New Zealander born. And also some big news. The Argentina has beaten Fiji in an upset in Vancouver Sevens. This is a really big news because the Argentina side is really struggling at the moment in the 15 side team, and a lot of their upcoming talents for the 15 side is from the sevens team. So this is a huge boost to the Argentina 15 side. Despite that, this is a sevens team because a lot of the upcoming talent from Argentina is from there. In fact, that was playing last year in the Rugby Championship. A lot of the young players that's filling up the bench positions are the sevens players starting positions are the sevens players from the Olympics, actually. So this is a really big win for Argentina to have more access for their team from the sevens side. And finally, Wales Rugby is in the dumpster fire, and people kind of looked at Warren Gatland already foreshadowing this when he was leaving Wales in 2019. Essentially, Wales is not doing so well at the moment in the club rugby. Obviously, the test team is not doing well, losing to Italy at home. Quite an embarrassment performance. And just recently, the team is being, investigated for harassment. So, yeah, everything is falling apart. And then, obviously, this kind of was highlighted by Gatland in 2019 that there is an internal kind of structural issue in Wales Rugby Union, and maybe a culture issue. So we might have to see some managerial changes in Wales to see further improvement for the Welsh side. Something that I think the Wallabies needs to on the same boat as well. The management needs to be seriously looked at, in my opinion. Anyway, that's news for this week, guys. Thank you for watching this video. I do appreciate it, you being here. Like, comment, and subscribe. Please subscribe. It really helps out a lot. And thank you for being here. I'll see you guys a bit later this week for the Super Round. And have a good week. Cheers.